Well, thank goodness for you, because it was going to be pretty hard for me to scream all this way. I'm on, the voice is coming back, but slowly. So anyway, once again, thank you for organizing this panel. And the questions that you have posed tonight are certainly among the most challenging we have to face as a society. And you can bet that since most of these deal with federal questions, well, they all relate to federal government, once we have to deal with it, you know it's complicated. And one of the things that I'm really happy about with this forum is it gives you time to actually discuss some of these issues, because if we have to rely on the contemporary media's filter to get the dialogue that we need to have to come to some kind of national consensus on some of these issues, we're going to be waiting a long time. Amen. So I appreciate this opportunity to have somewhat of an extended discussion. I guess you all know these questions, but I guess I should read them again. First question, share with us your vision for Social Security and Medicare viability, particularly in terms of partial privatization of retirement accounts, and the issue of allowing Medicare to negotiate for prescription discounts for Part D participants. That's the first question. Okay, good. It's a long question and a very important one. Let's separate these two discussions into two separate areas, because they really, even though they come out of the same portion of your withholding tax, they're very different issues. The issue of Social Security viability is one which I think has been somewhat exaggerated. The critical nature of the Social Security system has been somewhat exaggerated in the media and by people who are looking to score a political point, and also those who are trying to advance a particular agenda. The issue of Social Security viability is not, we are not in crisis in Social Security. Right now, if we do nothing else, we make no changes, we will be able to pay 100% of benefits to somewhere between 2040 and 2050. And after that, somewhere above 70% for the foreseeable future after that. That's if we do nothing. And also that projection is predicated on all these viability issues with Social Security are predicated on a certain percentage growth in the gross domestic product of 1.8%. Now, even in bad years, this economy generally grows at more than 1.8%. So if we have years of 3.3% growth, we are actually dramatically improving the viability of Social Security each year we do that. That being said, we do have some issues, and there are some things we can do to improve the viability, so forth, even without significant growth in the economy. One of the things I think we obviously can do is raise the cap. Right now you pay withholding 6.2%, I think it is, withholding up to $90-something thousand. There are proposals to raise that. I think that's something we can consider if we get to the point where we really have to make a significant adjustment. We also can change the retirement age. Now, right now, to get maximum benefits, you have to work to 67. But there are incentives in the system right now to actually encourage you to retire early. And for those of you, there's nobody in here at retirement age, is there? Right now, you can take a partial payment beginning at 62 years old and forego full benefits. The calculation that you make, and this is something that a friend of mine who knows a lot more about numbers than I do, figured it out. You actually have to plan to live to 85 years in order to make that discount be worthwhile. In other words, in order to take your full benefits. Since life expectancy, average life expectancy is less than that, most people are betting by taking early retirement and taking the partial payment. Now, we don't need to encourage people to retire early. We don't need to no. We need all the skilled, talented workers in this country that we can get. So we need to keep people in the workforce. We don't need an incentive for them to take a benefit, which actually hurts the system financially and also hurts our labor force. So I think we need to look at changing that. And again, there are minor tweaks we can make that we should sustain the program going forward. Now, Medicare is a totally different issue. Medicare is on the verge of bankruptcy right now. I mean, we are looking at most 5 or 6 years until Medicare reaches critical proportions. The cost of Medicare is rising dramatically, and will continue to. There's no question about that. And as all the baby boomers move into Medicare eligibility, that exacerbates the problem. So we have to take some dramatic steps to work on Medicare. Now, right now, and 2 years ago when we were campaigning, I kind of got in trouble for this because I wasn't precise enough in how I described what I'm about to describe. There are estimates by health economists that we can, right now you pay, anybody who's working pays 1.45% into Medicare from in their withholding, and the employer matches that 1.45%. There are health economists who have estimated that if we took the 1.45% and moved that to 4%, so each individual would pay 4% of payroll. Now I'm not changing the cap now; it's still just under $100,000 worth of income, and the employer paid 4% instead of 1.45%. We could not only maintain the viability of Medicare into infinity, at least as far as they can project, but we would also be able to cover every American citizen under a Medicare system.
Oh, wow.
Now, if that's the case, and the reason is, right now, Medicare is covering, obviously, the most expensive people to cover. The people who need the most care. If we brought everyone into the system and basically charged them made the same calculation based on what we're doing now, we're bringing the people who are least expensive to care for into a system, and we're balancing it out. I don't know if those numbers are right. I'm not going to vouch for them because I didn't do them. But these are smart people who did them. If that is true, here would be the impact. The average American family, which makes $55,000 a year, household income, would pay about $1,300 more a year in taxes. But they would eliminate most of their copays, most of their premiums, and most of their deductibles. Now, that to me is a deal that is a no-brainer for most people if the numbers work. So, again, this is something that as we move forward, and I think what we're going to see over the next few years, next 4 years to be specific, is a very, very intensive debate, discussion, I won't call it a debate, a national discussion on how we're going to reform our healthcare system. Because while we may be able to do some things to shore up Medicare specifically, I don't think that's the answer that this country needs. I think the answer that this country needs is to reform its entire healthcare system. And not just its Medicare system. So I think that's the debate we're going to have. If we fail to do that, then we're going to have to deal with the Medicare system itself. And the only way to deal with the Medicare system itself is raise revenue, which means raise taxes, or ration care. I don't think this society is ever going to solve its healthcare crisis, Medicare or more general healthcare crisis, by rationing care or by taxing our way out of the crisis. So I think that we need to, and this goes to another question I'm going to deal with a little bit later, and that's the issue of healthcare disparities among the population. That's the way you resolve healthcare disparities, is make sure that everybody's covered under a universal system as a basic level of care. And again, we can do it if these economists are right at a relatively low increase in taxes for most American families. So that's the way I would proceed. That's my first choice. And one other thing that goes along with that, this is probably not going to do anything to help Medicare in the immediate future. But as I said, we're never going to tax our way or ration our way out of the healthcare crisis. We can invent our way out of it, however. And by that I mean we can, if we were to cure cancer and diabetes, 2 diseases, we would solve our healthcare crisis forever. We spend literally billions of dollars treating cancer, and hundreds of billions of dollars treating cancer and diabetes every year in this country. we're right now spending about $5 billion